tomorrow is November 1st, which means it is officially National Writing Month, aka NaNoWriMo, which for those of you who may not know what NaNoWriMo is, pretty much the month of November is a challenge for writers to try to write 50,000 words for a full-length novel in the span of 30 days. It's intense. It's a lot of work, and I'm a crazy person who, instead of writing 50,000 words, is gonna try to write 60,000. Oh, this is gonna be so overwhelming. With me deciding to write 60,000 words every single day, that is 2,000 words a day for the next 30 days. Now, when I write a chapter of my book, I typically average anywhere from 1.5 to 3,000 words per chapter, which pretty much means rather than writing 2,000 words a day, my goal more so translates to writing a chapter per day. Which, with where I'm at right now in my book, that should get me to finish part 1 and make some pretty good progress into part 2. I realized as I was getting ready to film this video, I have mentioned in the past that I like to write and that I've been in the middle of writing a book, but I have never actually talked to you guys about the book that I am writing. So this video is going to be an opportunity for me to kind of highlight what it is that I am working on, because I want to try to finish part 1 and part 2 of my book before the end of this year. And then hopefully by next year I can be at a point where I feel like my book is ready to be sent to publishers. As of right now, my book is currently at 27,419 words. And at this moment in time, I am in the middle of writing chapter 16 of 29 for part 1. Goal-wise, I want to try to write 60,000 words before the end of this month, on top of the 27,000 that I've already hit, which means I should be writing roughly like 30 chapters of my book, I think. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on my word count. I do also have a little bit of like a video goal for this month. I will be trying to do daily updates, and then this video right here is going to be a whole month-long vlog of the entirety of November for myself as I go through NaNoWriMo. So this is going to be a longer video. You know, I'm vlogging the whole month of me writing. I plan on showing my progress, but also talking about my book and just how things are going as I'm writing. So I am really excited for this. So I will catch you guys tomorrow for the official first day of National Writing Month and show you guys my progress. So I will see you then. I haven't really told you guys all that much about what my book is about, but pretty much you are following our main characters, Cyrene and Lux. Their goal is they are searching the ocean for Adriar's trident, Adriar being the first king of the ocean, and his trident being this all-powerful trident that he was gifted by a group of Selkies that basically let him control the ocean itself. And so they're trying to find said trident because it's been lost for about 200 years. So you're kind of following along with that. That's obviously a very brief description of it. The way that I've been writing this book so far is that initially it was going to be, it's a split POV between Cyrene and Lux, and initially it was going to be 2 chapters for Cyrene and then 1 for Lux, and then 2 for Cyrene and then 1 for Lux, and that's how the whole book was supposed to go. But as I've been writing, I have just started to really fall in love with writing Lux's character, and I've been having so much fun with him. And where I am at in the book right now, Cyrene and Lux are split up, and so at first the 2-1-2-1-2-1 was really working because they were together, but now that they're in 2 completely different places, I've actually switched it over to 1-1-1-1-1, which I actually am having a lot of fun with just because I'm really loving writing Lux's POV right now. And I do feel like it gives you more time to enjoy both of the characters, because so far most of it had been just from Cyrene's perspective and what you're hearing from her. But now you're actually getting to follow along with what's going on in Lux's head a lot. So that being said, I've already added an extra like 3 chapters that I was not planning on initially putting in, which is good because that just means I have more stuff that I'm writing. But it also means I have I don't want to say severely, but I have fallen quite a bit away from the initial outline that I've created. But there's still supposed to be a couple more days of time within the book where they're supposed to be separated. And so I'm trying to fill that up with more information. So we're going to get cracking in some more writing a little bit later today. I do want to write a minimum of 2,000 words a day to hit that 60,000 word goal, but I also am going to give myself a little bit of grace. We're crossing our fingers that I don't get burnt out, okay? But I'm hoping to get far enough in the book at the beginning half of the month that by the time I maybe do get burnt out, I don't have as much writing I still need to do, so I can do less days. Like I can have a couple of days where I don't need to try to cram 2,000 words in. It's okay if I just do like 500 and we won't be too far off from hitting our goal. So that's the plan pretty much so far. I'm gonna do some writing a little bit later today. I'll keep updating you guys as we go along, but 4 days in, we are going strong. We are officially 1 week into NaNoWriMo. I am so excited to talk about how things are going with this book. I'm genuinely so proud of the progress that I have made thus far. I feel like I'm kind of flying through stuff, and I'm just very much impressed with myself. So I have written on my phone right here my stats from this whole week. When I started this challenge, I was at 27,419 words. And as of today, which I have already done my bare minimum of the 2,000 words I'm supposed to write every single day, I don't want to stop writing for today, so I'm still planning on doing more. But as of where I'm at right now, I'm at 45,649, which means I've written a total of almost 20,000 words in the span of 1 week. That's not, is that right? No way. Yeah. Wow. It really has been. Okay. As of where I was at yesterday, I was at 16,339. Plus, I've already written another 2,000-ish today. So as of right now, I have written roughly 18.5 thousand words in the span of 7 days, which is insane. That's way more than I was expecting to get to at this point. I'm so proud of myself. This is awesome. And I am currently on chapter 26. When I had first outlined how I wanted this book to go, it was going to be 29 chapters long. And I am currently on chapter 26 out of 29. Except the thing is that I ended up adding like 6 or 7 chapters of information. The new rough draft is probably going to end up being around 35,000 words, 35,000 chapters. I haven't, oh my gosh, what do I keep saying? The new rough draft should be about 35 chapters. I haven't really gone back and replotted since I've added more stuff, but I am at the point in my book now where we are like entering into the climax. Like everything is going to start amping up, which means I am going to start really, hopefully like cranking out chapters here, because everything I'm about to write is stuff that's super intense and super exciting. So I can't wait. Now, here's the thing. This book was initially supposed to be a standalone novel, and it was going to have 3 separate parts. As I've been writing, I have been kind of just struggling with pacing. When I used to write, and even up until recently, I tended to write more like I was writing a movie script rather than writing a book. So I focused way more on dialogue, and I didn't really add filler chapters or description really at all. I am getting close to the end of where part 1 should be. Again, I haven't entirely decided whether or not I'm actually going to be making this a trilogy or if it's just going to be a standalone book, but just like a really long one. So for part 1, I have roughly 5 to 10 chapters left. But that being said, I will not have hit 60,000 by the time that I finish this part. I'll probably get close to like 30 to 40,000, which means I'm still gonna have some words left over to keep writing. I went back and forth a little bit between maybe I'll go back and edit previous chapters, but between deleting words and then adding words in, it's gonna get really convoluted as to how many I've actually written. So rather than doing that, I'm just gonna jump straight in from part 1 into part 2 and just start writing that draft and see how far I can get into that. And I can pretty much guarantee by the direction that I'm going, because rather than writing 2,000 words a day, I've actually kind of been averaging 2.5 to 3,000 words a day. I can pretty much guarantee that I will hit that 60,000 mark and then some. Whenever I hit 60,000 for the month, I'm not going to stop there. I'm just going to keep going. I just want to try to do as much writing as I can this month. But that's just me really getting ahead of myself. We still have got a little bit of ways to go on part 1 before we're ready for all of that. Like I said, I am on chapter 26 right now. Based off of where my original plotline had been, the part that I'm at now, between that and the end, there was roughly 9 chapters left to go. So the fact that I'm on 26, I should have about 9 chapters left to write. So I should get to about 35, which means 9,000. I typically write like a chapter and a half a day. It should probably take me about like another week to get to. I don't know. This has been so all over the place. I've been a little bit distracted. Just as a catch up, we're doing phenomenally well for this challenge so far. Let me give you my stats for the day. So the first day I wrote 2,001 words. Day 2, I wrote 2,388. Day 3, I wrote 3,192. Day 4, I wrote 3,349. Day 5 was 2,849. Day 6 is 2,560. And then as of right now, I think I'm like at 2,000 100 or so. I don't know exactly where I'm at for day 7. Like I said, I'm not done writing for the day because it's currently not even 11 a.m. yet. So I still have at least another nap to be able to write. We are doing really good so far for this month. We are at, like I said, 18,000 words out of 60,000, which means we are almost a third of the way done with this challenge. And it's only November 7th. So who knows, maybe I can hit 80,000 before the end of the month. That would be crazy. That would literally be an entire book, like bare minimum, but like that would literally be bare minimum for an entire book. That's crazy. Anyway, we'll see how it goes, but I will give you guys some more updates as I'm going along. I'll catch y'all in a little bit. I just filmed for 5 minutes and realized I did not turn on my recording for my phone. So that was great. Now we had to do all of that all over again. But we are officially into week 2, as in ending week 2, which means we are halfway done with this challenge, which is crazy. Which means it is time for me to give you guys a little bit of an update as to where I am at as of the 14th, which I did already do some writing today. I have not finished. I'm gonna try to do a little bit more when the kiddo goes down for his second nap of the day, because I feel like I still have a little bit of inspiration left in me to be able to write. I've written 37,784 words. So that does mean I am 4 days ahead of schedule. My goal is to write 2,000 words every single day, even after I hit 60,000, which from the way that this is going, I should probably hit 60,000 either late next week or really early into week 4. Which would be crazy. I don't know, man. Next week, my mom is watching my son for a couple of days, which means I will be uninterrupted for like 3 days straight because my husband still has work. So I should have like 3 days to be able to just do nothing but write all day. So I'm really hoping to jam a crap ton of words into those days. So we're going to see how that goes. That might be a very intense update for you guys once I get there. Let me tell you guys my statistics for the word count. So for day 8, I wrote 3,081 words. For day 9, I wrote 2,012. Day 10, I wrote 3,492, which so far for this whole month is my record for the amount of words that I wrote. Day 11, I wrote 3,163. Day 12, I wrote 2,850. Day 13, I wrote 2,056. And then as of today, I'm currently at 2,272. I do plan on writing more, like I said, a little bit later. So that is going to change. So yeah, we're making incredibly good progress, but I also can feel like that progress is probably going to slow down here pretty soon, just because as of 2 days ago, I think I finished writing part 1, which I am filming these updates very sporadically, at least once a week, if not sometimes in between, which means I don't always remember everything I've already talked about. But this book was written with the intention of being a standalone novel. I've seen a lot of authors say that they wish that the first book that they published was not actually the first book that they published, because for a lot of authors, they get an idea in their head, they get really excited about it, they write it, they publish it, whatever, and then over the years, as they enhance their writing style and things grow, they wish, they wrote it a little bit later in life when their writing styles have updated and they've become a better author. I have a series that I've been working on for over a decade now, but that is the one that I'm the most passionate about and the one that I am really excited to publish one day. And so if anything is going to be amazing, I want it to be that series. And so I took a break from that series because I was getting super overwhelmed by it. And I decided to jump into this one with the intention of making it a standalone novel so I can get practice with writing, but also just kind of already get my name out there. I wrote this one with the intentionality of it being something completely different than the universe I have been working on for so long. And also because alongside some research that I've been doing, I've seen that a lot of publishers will be more likely to pick up a first-time author if they write a standalone shorter novel, so roughly 80 to 100,000 words, and it is a standalone. Just it makes sense, if a first-time author is publishing a book and they're publishing a 6-book series that's 800 pages each, and the first one completely tanks, but they've already signed the book deal. Like, they now have to use all of this ink and all of this paper to publish a series that isn't going to be making them any money. They're more likely to pick up a first-time author who has written something a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter, so that way it can do better. It makes sense, which is why I decided that I was going to try to write this book in particular as a standalone. And so I did end up finishing part 1. I think 2 days ago, which is amazing. And I was really excited about it. And part 1 ended up being 60,000 words, which is the longest draft of a book that I've ever written. And if I were to do the bare minimum, means I only have roughly like 20,000 words to write if I were to make it its own novel. So that's really exciting. I am now jumping into part 2, which part 1 I was so excited for. I knew exactly how I wanted part 1 to go. I had so much that I wanted to put into it for character building and world building and whatever. And so I've always been so excited to write the first part, especially because the way that it ends, I'm always so excited to write the ending. And now we're into part 2, which also should be really intense and fun, but I just haven't spent nearly as much time thinking about it as I have with part 1. Part 3 is even worse. I spent almost no time thinking about part 3, which is bad considering it is the ending of the book, but I haven't really thought about it all that much. And I did a little bit of outlining yesterday and I started writing some stuff. I was having a really hard time getting myself to sit down and write yesterday. I mean, I barely even wrote 2,000 words, which is not the first time I've done that. There's been a couple of days this month that I've literally only hit 2,000 and called it a day because I had no energy. I'm a little bit nervous that because I don't have as much excitement with part 2 and part 3 that I'm gonna not want to write it as much. And so that's part of the reason that I was really pushing myself with part 1 to write as much as possible, so that way when it came to this point in the challenge where I am now at a part that I'm not as excited about, I have a little bit more wiggle room to not write as much and to get myself more excited about this part, so that way hopefully I do get more excited about it and then I want to write it. I was writing today and I wrote what did I say, like 2,200 words or whatever. I wrote that 2,000 words within an hour and a half or something like that. I wrote it during my son's first nap time, which usually I can only get through like 1,500 words during his nap time, and that's usually if he takes like an hour to 2 hour nap. This today, he took like an hour long nap, a little bit longer, and I managed to write my 2,000 words for the day already in that point in time. So I am definitely at the point where I think I'm getting a little bit more excited, or at least this section in particular, I was excited to write. We are over halfway done with the month of this challenge, and we are over halfway done with the word count for this challenge. I am thinking I'm probably going to have to bump it up to about 80,000 words. I don't know. I'm nervous. My husband is crazy. He is obsessed with Hamilton, the musical. We watched it the other day with a group of his friends, and apparently out of curiosity he looked it up later, and I guess when Hamilton was writing the Federalist Papers, he wrote anywhere between, I think it was like 84 to 96. They don't know exactly how much he wrote, but he wrote roughly 84,000 words in the span of 6 months. And my husband is like, you should try to write 84,000 words in 1 month, so that way you can say you wrote more than a Hamilton did in 6. And I was like, bro, you're crazy. Like that is not, that's so different. He actually thinks I can write 100,000. That would be way too much. But again, considering that I'm going to have a couple days here this upcoming week to be able to write without the distraction of my son being here, who knows? Maybe I could get a couple thousand words done every single day and have a bunch of motivation to write more. And then maybe I will get to the 100,000 word mark. I don't know. I don't think so, though. I think I could maybe get to 80. It would be a lot, but I think maybe I could get to 80,000. That is my updates for my writing. I've been having so much fun. I feel like I say this every single time I'm writing a draft, but I feel like this is the most excited I have ever been when it comes to like writing a draft of a book. But I mean, I have been talking to a lot of people about this. You know, my husband's been reading it and he's been making some edits here and there. My best friend is reading it and she's making some corrections here and there. I reached out to another friend of mine. She is a phenomenal artist, and I asked if she'd be willing to start making some artwork and stuff for me. And so I've been sending her some random, just kind of small things that I would like to like have in my own mind, just a piece of artwork for, so I can reference it and explain things. And she did the artwork for the big weapons in this book. There are 3 in particular. You have Adriar's Trident, you have Tempestus, and you have Magister Phasarum, which also is just called Phasarum for most of the book. And she did the artwork for it, and oh my gosh, I am obsessed with them. I'm gonna put pictures right here so you can see what they look like. First you have Adriar's Trident, which this is exactly what I wanted it to be. When I tried to explain it to her, you know, I gave her wiggle room with every one of the weapons because I was like, hey, here's what I'm roughly thinking, but I'm not super set on any design. If you have ideas or if something isn't going to work, let me know. We can change it up. But I explained how I wanted this trident to look. I love it so much. It's so cool. And then moving on to Tempestus, which this is actually the sword she changed the most from my initial design. And I like the changes that she made so much better. I feel like it fits the vibe of the sword and the vibe of the character who has the sword so much better. And I love Tempestus. It looks great. The next one, which I'm also ridiculously excited about, is Phasarum, which look at him. He's beautiful. She did such a phenomenal job with these images. She is working on putting out a portfolio and stuff like that. If you want to get work done by her in the future, look up TR Ferreira. I will have her website linked down in the description once she finally has that up and running. She's been doing amazing artwork for me, and she has other stuff that she's working on for me too. I genuinely could not even tell you which of these 3 weapons I love the most, because she did Adriar's Trident first, and I was like, wow, that's amazing, nothing can top it. And then she sent me Phasarum, and then I was like, wow, that's amazing, nothing can top it. And then she sent me Tempestus. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I don't know which of the 3 is my favorite. I feel like it has to be Adriar's Trident, because that is just exactly what I envisioned in my head, and she made it look so good. But the other 2 are also just as phenomenal. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited now that I'm getting artwork done for this book, and the book is being written and people are making edits and stuff like that. Like, this feels like the most progress I have ever done. Like, I actually genuinely feel like I could get this book published soon. Not soon as in like in 2 months. I mean, my goal now, I want to try to get my book ready to publish by the end of next year. He's currently pulling all of the books off of my bookshelf because that is his favorite thing to do, which is why I put all of my least favorite books on the bottom. So just in case he destroys them, it's not a big deal. Pretty much what I'm doing right now is I'm going to write parts 1, 2, and 3 in full before I go back and do any sort of editing. Because if it's staying as a standalone, then I have the whole thing written. But then that way, at least if it's a trilogy, then I have part 2 and part 3 already at least first draft written. So that way, by the time that part 1 is published, I already have a start on part 2 and part 3. I'm still calling them parts because I haven't decided. I will spend a bunch of time editing part 1 because I want to see. I'm not gonna lie, I am really leaning towards seeing if I can actually get this turned into a trilogy. And then the hope is that by the end of next year, I either will have this book ready to query and submit it to publishers if I decide to go the traditional publishing route, or I will be ready to self-publish, which I've been doing some research and some thought into it, and there are so many perks and benefits to both sides of things, like self-publishing and traditional publishing, and I haven't really figured it out yet. My father-in-law has written a couple of books. He writes a lot of theology books, and he's actually published things in 3 different formats. Like, he's done self-publishing, he's done it through Amazon, and then he's also gone the route of traditional publishing, and he's given me a list of pros and cons for every single option. So I'm kind of just at the point of like, okay, I just need to make the decision myself on how I want it to go. And as much as I would love to go down the traditional publishing route, the idea that publishers can just completely change your book because they want it to go a certain way does kind of stress me out, because obviously I've been working on this for so long. You know, I don't want to just change the whole thing because a publisher says, hey, what if you did this instead of this? Oh no, he's ripping books. R.I.P. the dust jacket of Eldest, but that's okay because the Eldest that we have is already really beat up. I got it for like $2 at a used bookstore. Also, he just moved the chair, so that's why you're now getting a slightly different angle. Pretty much where I am at right now is we are officially starting working on part 2. I'm actually already working on chapter 3. I started on 27,000 when I started NaNoWriMo, considering that I wrote roughly 25,000 words. Nope, that's wrong. 35? 30. The math isn't mathing. Considering that I wrote roughly 30,000 words in part 1, I could probably get about halfway through part 2. That is that. I'm gonna end this update here. I keep telling myself I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna update you guys on actual like character and plot stuff, because I have yet to even really talk about anything that happens in this book and series at all, but I need to. So I'm going to come back and I am going to do that probably sometime later this week when I have a little bit more time. For now, NaNoWriMo is going great and I am really proud of myself and the work that has been going on. So I will see you guys in a little bit after I have another update ready for y'all. Welcome back. It is the end of week 3 for NaNoWriMo, which means it's time to talk about my updates. And this week is super exciting because as of yesterday, I hit 60,000 words. Woo, 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 woo. I cannot believe it, okay? Because here's the thing. I cannot remember the last time I dedicated myself to writing this much for this long. Like, 30 days of writing bare minimum 2,000 words a day is a lot. And I don't know if I've ever done something like that. Maybe for like 2-3 weeks max, but for a month straight, like this is a lot of writing. And I think the longest draft of a book that I've ever written was about 50,000 words, 51,000 words. And I think I did that over the span of like 3 months. So I've already written 60,000 words in the span of 20 days. It is day 21 right now. Still got some time to go, but hitting 60,000 words in 20 days, that was not what I expected. I'm honestly really proud of myself. Yes, I am starting a new goal. We're not going to just stop here. We still got 10 days left there this month, so we are going to keep pushing along and trying to get some more writing done, and I'm really excited about it. But I just wanted to take a second to be really impressed with myself for the fact that I managed to hit 60,000 words in 20 days. So that being said, our new goal is 85,000. And I did do the math because I'm weird, and it is completely doable. But I had to have spent yesterday, today, and tomorrow writing bare minimum 5,000 words each day to make it happen. And then I need to do about 2,300 per day for the other days of this month to be able to successfully hit 85,000 by the end of the month. On average, I write 2,500 to 3,000 words a day. So I don't really think that there's going to be very much of an issue with me reaching this goal. Yeah, just try to do basically like 2,300 words per day pretty much for the next couple of days to try to accomplish this challenge. Let's go over the past 7 days. I'm going to do day 14 because I don't remember if I said the numbers for day 14 or not. For day 14, I managed to write 4,491 words. 15 was 2,508. Day 16 was 2,830. Day 17 was 3,014. Day 18 was 2,658. Day 19 was 3,383. And then yesterday, which is the day that I hit 60,000, I accidentally deceived myself and I thought I had to write 6,000 words. Well, it turns out I only had to write 5, but I wrote 6,243, which by the way is a new record for me. That is the most amount of words I have ever written in a day. So that's also pretty impressive. You can kind of see it right there. I'm at 91,544 words for this draft. That's pretty exciting. That's pretty sick. But I am in chapter 20 of what would be part 2, potentially book 2. These chapters are significantly shorter than the ones that I wrote in part 1, just because of all of the parts that I have. Part 1 is definitely the one that's been the most fleshed out and the most thought about. But part 2 is going really well and I'm having a fun time with it. Okay, so this book is not about the romance, all right? Let me establish this right now. This book is not supposed to be about the romance. Is there romance in it? Yes. I know what is the norm for this genre. Like, I know YA fantasy is pretty much non-existent if there is no romance in it. I wish that that wasn't the case, and I know that there are people out there who don't read books just for the romance, but from what I have seen, which I know does make up a pretty large population of readers, romance and YA fantasy is a big thing. And if I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong. My husband keeps trying to tell me that I'm wrong, and I think we both are right to a certain degree. This book is not a romance book, but yes, there is romance in it. And with every draft that I've written, I have changed the potential love interest for our main character. I did not want to write a love triangle, okay? And it is kind of unfortunately becoming a love triangle. It's actually kind of becoming a love square, if I'm being honest. With the way that this draft has been working, the relationship between our main character, Cyrene, and one of the other mermen is just going so well, and I love it so much. I don't think I have told you guys anything about my book quite yet, other than the fact that it is a mermaid pirate YA fantasy. And if I haven't told you guys that, this book is a mermaid pirate YA fantasy. They are all mermaids. It takes place entirely underwater, which is a significantly harder challenge to try to write about than you would expect it to be. But they are all mermaids. They live underwater. And there are 6 different kingdoms. The main focus, like the main kingdom that we are focusing on, is Arkmore, which is the pirate kingdom. And that is where Cyrene and then one of our other main characters, Lux, is from. Lux and Cyrene have been childhood best friends. So they've known each other for about 10 years at this point. But there are 2 other characters that are also important in the story. You've also got Natan and Atlantia. Cyrene is the main focus of the story, even though the other 3 are also very important to the story. She is the one that you're following the most. Part 1 did end up being, I think, like 61,000 words. I'm at 91,000, so that means part 2 is currently at 30,000 words, which is great. I have roughly, I think, 10 or so more chapters. So if I manage, which I don't know if I will, but if I manage to push myself to writing 2,000 words per chapter, that means part 3 should end up being around 50,000 words, which honestly is significantly better than I expected it to be. So I'm not mad about it. My new goal is to write 85,000 words this month, which should put me just shy of finishing part 2. Before I had actually really planned on doing NaNoWriMo, my goal was to finish part 1 before my husband and I left to go visit his family for Christmas. Now my goal is to finish part 2 by then, which should be really easy to do. Part of me is wondering if maybe I should see if I can finish the entire thing before I leave for Christmas. This has been a lot of work, okay? Writing bare minimum 2,000 words a day has been no joke. It pretty much has been, I wake up, I write. The kid wakes up, I hang out with him until his nap time. He goes down for a nap, I write. He wakes up, we play. He goes down for his second nap, I write. It has pretty much been, I have only had time for writing this entire month, which has been fun. I have really been enjoying this challenge. It's also been a lot. This has been a lot of work, and I am kind of mentally tired. I've been drinking way too many monsters to really be functioning like a normal human being now. I'm gonna have to go on a major caffeine detox next month. I do need to tell you guys about the actual plot of my book because I have not talked about that really at all yet. The main character of this book is Cyrene, and she is 17 years old. She is from the pirate kingdom of Arkmore, and her kind of whole life goal has been to find her family. She was adopted as a kid, and she's always just been curious about who her parents are. Then our next main character is Lux, who, as I mentioned as well, is the prince of Arkmore. He is the pirate prince, is what he typically gets referred to. And he befriends Cyrene as a child, and pretty much the second that they become friends, they are completely inseparable. But Lux, unfortunately, is a little bit of an anxious merman. He has dealt with a lot from his very unforgiving father, who is Draymond, who just so happens to be the villain of our story. Throughout the book, potentially serious, but throughout the book, Lux pretty much really struggles with the identity of what is the most important thing to him. Is it his best friend, who he has been in love with since they were kids? Is it his kingdom that he's one day supposed to inherit? Or is it his father, who has never willingly given Lux his love? And then the other two characters that you're following is Atlantia, who is the princess of the ocean, or not princess of the ocean, she's the princess of Salenith, and she's known as the Pearl of the Ocean because she is known as being like the most beautiful mermaid alive. People unfortunately don't really attribute much else to her though. They don't look at her for brains. They don't expect her to be smart. They don't expect her to do anything. They just expect her to sit around and be a pretty face. So because merfolk tend to expect her to be snooty and rude, she's kind of just embraces more so like the frustrated, I don't care about you, everything's about me kind of vibe, because that's just what everyone has expected from her. The last main character that we are dealing with is Natan, who is Prince of Corrales, and he is a little bit bloodthirsty. He's a little bit more on the aggressive side. He is one of the best sword fighters in the ocean. And then, of course, we have our villain, who is Draymond, who is the current king of Arkmore. Arkmore, being the pirate kingdom, being a not well-respected kingdom, is a little bit impoverished just because they are on the outskirts of the ocean. Like, they live kind of towards the bottom. They're surrounded by rocky spires. There's nothing near them for them to really be able to thrive on. And so Draymond and Lux lead these raids against the kingdoms to try to pillage and plunder goods so that way they can keep their kingdom alive. But obviously what the other kingdoms don't realize is that part of the reason that Draymond conducts these raids is to try to find Adriar's trident. And Adriar is the very first king of the ocean who, when he was crowned king, was gifted this trident that is pretty much an all-powerful artifact that can control the ocean. About 200 years before the events of our story begins, the trident goes missing. So Draymond wants to find it because he wants to be king of the ocean. And so he has been raiding the kingdoms for his entire reign to try to claim the trident for himself and has yet to be able to find it. So that's pretty much where our story starts. You follow Lux and Cyrene because Cyrene is Lux's first mate, and they are raiding one of the neighboring kingdoms, trying to find the trident piece. My hubby's home. Sorry for the abrupt ending of that last clip. My husband came home earlier from work than I expected. and I got excited. So I stopped talking, and then I couldn't remember what I was talking about, so I didn't actually finish talking. So now we're back. It is December 4th. NaNoWriMo is officially over. I've had a couple of days to de-stress, which means it is now time for me to give you the final updates for my writing for this month, and then talk to you guys about my thoughts for NaNoWriMo as a challenge. So let's get into it. So last time I updated you guys, I believe was on day 20, which on day 20, I had written 6,243 words. Day 21, I wrote 5,181 words. Day 22, I wrote 5,036. Day 20 through 22 were the ones where my son wasn't in town, so I was trying to get that 15,000 words done, which I succeeded with, by the way. Day 23, I wrote 2,027. Day 24, I wrote 2,028. Day 25, I wrote 2,106. Day 26, I wrote 2,419. Day 27, which was Thanksgiving, I only wrote 1,551 words. That is the only day that I did not hit 2,000 for the day, and it was because it was Thanksgiving. And then for day 28, I wrote 2,350. Day 29 was 2,096, and day 30 was 2,008, bringing us to a grand total of 87,176 words for the month. Y'all, when I tell you I was brain dead, I mean, I was brain dead, okay? By those last 3 days, it was such a struggle for me to get my laptop out and write. Like, my brain was so foggy. I genuinely think those chapters were utter crap. I almost didn't even end up writing those days. I just felt like everything I wrote, I'm just gonna have to go back and change anyway, but that's okay. At least I have some stuff down on paper. My draft is now up to almost 115,000 words. Part 1 ended up being 61,000. Part 2, because I managed to finish part 2. I was not expecting to do that. Part 2 was, I believe, 50,000, and I just only barely started on part 3, so I think that's at like 4,000 right now or something like that. If part 3 continues to go in the direction that part 1 and part 2 did, and I managed to get another 50-ish thousand words done for part 3, that means this draft will be at around 160,000 words by the time that it is finished. That is crazy. By far, the longest draft of the book I have ever written. As a reward to myself for finishing NaNoWriMo, my husband and I went to Target for Black Friday. They were doing their buy two, get one free book sale. I wish I could have gone to Barnes & Noble, but Barnes & Noble is 45 minutes away, so we did not go. But we did go to Target, and I did get myself a little bit of a prize. And as a kudos to myself, I got apparently the entire collection of Rachel Gillig. So I picked up The Night and the Moth, which is super pretty, and I'm really excited to read this one. And then they had the 2 special editions for One Dark Window and 2 Twisted Crowns, which, look at the sprayed edges. Those are super pretty. Have I read this duology? No. Now that it is over, let me tell you my thoughts about the actual challenge itself. Do I recommend this as a challenge that you as a writer should do? Absolutely. Do I think you need to stick to the exact confines that NaNoWriMo dictates, aka 50,000 words in 1 month? No. Do whatever works for you, okay? If you know that you are an incredibly busy person and you're not gonna have any time to write, and you think that you can only write a max of 10,000 words in 1 month, make that your goal. Do I think that writing 50,000 words in 1 month is possible? Yeah, I do. But if you want to do that, it needs to be a priority. For me, I understand that being a stay-at-home mom, I have a lot more free time than most people do. Granted, my time is entirely dictated by my son's sleep schedule. If he decides to take a 20-minute nap, he takes a 20-minute nap, and then that is my writing time for the day. But I also know that most people have school from 7 a.m. until like 8 p.m. because they also have practices and things like that. Or people have jobs with odd hours and that they can't dictate what happens because they need to work overtime and their boss expects things from them. I understand that things come up, and I understand that sometimes you just don't have the time you want to be able to write or invest into your hobbies as you would like. When I say that writing needs to be a priority, I just mean, for me, I dedicated literally every single free second that I had to writing. Whenever my son was asleep, whether it was like in the morning before he woke up for the day or during his nap times, I was just writing my book. I made writing the entire priority of my life. I would not read until I finished my bare minimum 2,000 words for the day. I would stay off of my phone until I finished my bare minimum 2,000 words for the day. I would not do anything else except for write. And maybe that was a little bit of a toxic mindset because I was literally the only thing I had going on in my life. But it did manage to help me write 87,000 words in the span of 1 month. Will I say that those words are the absolute best quality that they could have been? No, I honestly think by around the 70,000 mark, my writing was significantly starting to drop off. I also recommend giving yourself days off. I really push myself that month. If I were to do this again, I would absolutely be giving myself the weekends off and giving myself some wiggle room that way and trying to figure out word count and everything with that time off, because I think that that would have probably helped my mind reset a little bit. Absolutely, I recommend doing NaNoWriMo. I just recommend, if you want to go for more than, if you think you can only hit 20,000 words, then only do 20,000. Make this challenge as flexible for you, for what's going to work for you. Because the point isn't about the word. The point is to work on your book. And if that means you spend 2 days drawing artwork, that's still working on your book. Or if you spend a week outlining and plotting, whatever is going to work best for you, do it for you. And I hope you guys have such a fun time in the future working on NaNoWriMo. I hope it inspired you to work on your own book if you are a writer, and maybe got you a little bit interested in reading mine at some point in time whenever it's finally published. I know I did not do a good job about actually talking about what my book is about, but I do plan on having more in-depth chats about that in the future. Thank you for staying around for this entire video, and I will catch you guys with the next one. I'm really excited for the next video. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!